Yaqub alayhi salam said, never will I send him with you until you give me a promise by Allah that you will bring him back to me. Only when you will make a promise in Allah's name, then I will send him with you. Unless you should be surrounded by enemies. And you see, this is ubudiyah, this is servitude. Realizing that we are still under Allah's control. That even if somebody promises us, they give us their pledges, still there is a possibility that they will not be able to fulfill it. Because ultimately, everything is not in our control. We might want something, but Allah decrees something else. So Yaqub alayhi salam remembers that. Because generally it happens that somebody makes a promise with us and they're honest. They are sincere in that promise. And later on they're not able to fulfill it. And we get very upset with them. That look, you promised me. What happened? They say that really I tried, but I was not able to fulfill it. This was beyond me and I'm sorry. But we're still angry with them. We're still upset with them as if they had decreed the situation. They could not have decreed it. Who decreed it? Allah Azzawajal decreed it. So even Yaqub alayhi salam, what does he say at this point? That unless Allah intends, otherwise, and you are surrounded by enemies, things are beyond your control. And when they had given their promise, he said, Allah over what we say is a witness. He doesn't say, if you don't fulfill your promise, then never come back to me. I don't want to see your face again. No, he doesn't threaten them. He reminds them that Allah is a witness. Allah is watching you when you go, and Allah is going to watch you whenever you are doing something. So you might be able to hide something from me, but you cannot hide anything from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see over here that He's instilling the fear of Allah in their hearts. He's reminding them to fear Allah and to trust Allah. Because this was their problem. The brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, their problem was they trusted themselves too much. Which is why they kept saying, نَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ نَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. And they kept saying, وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. We will guard him. They trusted themselves. And secondly, we see that they did not fear Allah. Because if they feared Allah, they would not have lied to their father. They would not have been so jealous of their brother so much that they threw him in the well. So we see that Yaqub alayhi salam, he is teaching them the most important matters that will become the root cause of islah, of reformation. You see, many times it happens that we see children doing something wrong. And we try to stop them by scaring them. I'm watching you. I know exactly what you're doing. Or if the child asks, Mama, how did you know? I know everything about you. You can't hide from me. And then if the children are caught talking about something that's inappropriate, saying, I heard you. So yes, the child will begin to fear you. But then what will happen when you're not there? What will happen? They will do those wrong things. The root of islah is fear of Allah. Fearing Allah is the root of islah. And Yaqub a.s. is instilling that in the hearts of his children. And it's never too late to do that. Because we might say that, oh, this person all their life they have been lying and cheating. How can they ever be cured now? No, it's never too late. Our job is to keep reminding one another. And we see over here that Yaqub a.s., he had suffered by trusting these sons in the past. He had trusted them with respect to Yusuf a.s. And generally what happens? We learn that if you have been betrayed by someone once, then don't trust them another time. Because a believer doesn't get bitten by the same hole twice. So why is it that Yaqub a.s. is trusting them over here? He's giving them a second chance because it had been many years now. It had been many years now. And also we see that he sees positive signs. What are the positive signs? That the money has been returned. So he takes this as a positive sign, inshallah. And besides, if he did not send Binyamin, and the brothers could not go to Egypt to buy more food, what other option did they have? How would they survive? They needed the food. So we see that Yaqub a.s. is taking yet another risk of personal loss, of personal grief. Why? For the greater good. For the greater good. The Prophet ﷺ also, he went to Ta'if. He spoke to one leader. And he didn't receive a positive response. He went to the other leader, he didn't receive a positive response. He went to the third leader, he didn't receive a positive response. And then he did not give up. He stayed in At-Ta'if, going to the marketplace, calling people to Islam over there. And that is when the leaders got really annoyed, and they sent people after the Prophet ﷺ, pelting him with stones in order to chase him out of the city. So the thing is that the person who wants greater good, then there are times when he will bear personal loss. Not just once, but multiple times. Why? Because he's not living for himself. He's not living a selfish life. He's not just concerned about his own well-being, but he wants good for everybody. And he said, now he's advising his children. He said, "O my sons, do not enter from one gate, but enter from different gates. And I cannot avail you against the decree of Allah at all." Meaning I can advise you to do such and such so that you are safe. But despite my effort to protect you, I cannot save you. I cannot save you. Sometimes we wonder, I said my du'as in the morning. I did this and this. I even gave sadaqah. How come I ran into an accident? How come I got hurt over here? What happened? And we begin to doubt Allah's promises, the words of the Prophet ﷺ. But what do we see here? That no matter what we have done for our protection, we cannot free ourselves from the will of Allah. No matter what we have done. Whether it is that we have recited the Qur'an, said our du'as, given sadaqah, taken some physical measures in order to protect ourselves, still remember, we cannot protect ourselves from Allah's will. Because Allah is Rabb, He is Master. Even when someone has taken protection, He is still Master. Isn't He? He is still Master. So this means that even when we have done something to protect ourselves, Allah can still inflict us with harm, which means that the protection that we have taken will not protect us from Allah's will. So He says that I cannot avail you against Allah's decree at all. The decision is only for Allah. عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ. Upon Him I have relied. And upon Him let those who would rely indeed rely. What a beautiful combination of tawakkul and exerting one's full effort. We see over here, he's doing the maximum that he can. He's doing the maximum that he can to make sure that his sons are safe. Because over here, first of all, he says to them to swear an oath by Allah that they will bring Binyamin back. And then we see that the rest of the boys, he's telling them, when you enter the city, don't enter from one gate. Why? Why did he say that to them? Because he was a wise man after all. He must have sensed that there is something fishy here. Because why is that man demanding that Binyamin also come? Right? And then, why did he return the money? This is an extraordinary situation. How often does it happen that a condition like this is placed on people? That until you bring your wife, you cannot have such and such. Until you bring so-and-so, you cannot have such and such. And then when you go, you also find the money that you paid. So he knows that this is something extraordinary. And besides, his sons are going in a foreign land. And they were foreigners in that land. Their looks were different. So they would instantly be recognized as foreigners. And it wasn't just a few of them. 12 of them. 12 of them, if they're going together with their camels, I mean, that's a huge group. People could suspect them. And generally what happens? When something bad is going to happen, when a test, when a trial is coming, what happens? It's like your sixth sense, it becomes conscious. It wakes up. You just start feeling anxious. You start getting worried. You just want to cry. Or you keep checking. You do not feel at ease. So Yaqub a.s. also, he did not feel at ease despite his best efforts. But what does he say? عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ. I've done my best and on Allah I trust. And when they entered from where their father had ordered them, this time they listened to their father. It did not avail. What did not avail them? Whatever their father told them, the plan that they had made, nothing availed them against the plan of Allah. Why? Because we can do whatever we want. If Allah does not allow it, it can never happen. So when they entered from where their father had ordered them, it did not avail them against Allah at all, except it was a need within the soul of Yaqub, which he satisfied. And this is that sixth sense we were talking about. So Yaqub alayhi salam did his best. And indeed, he was a possessor of knowledge because of what we had taught him. But most of the people do not know. Yaqub alayhi salam was a knowledgeable man. And this is why he adopted this way of protecting his children. What way? Best planning, and secondly, relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But most of the people do not know. So when they go through a situation like this, they become doubtful of Allah's promises. They think that their prayers are not going to help, or they think that there's no need to do anything because they need to completely rely on their prayers. You see, this balance of tawakkul and best efforts, this is the action of who? This is found in who? The prophets of Allah and those who are knowledgeable. He was a possessor of knowledge. And when they entered upon Yusuf, he took his brother to himself and he said, "Indeed, I am your brother." Yusuf a.s. revealed his identity to his full brother. But how? Secretly. So do not despair over what they used to do to me. Do not despair, do not be sad about what has happened in the past. Get over it. Yes, we all suffered, but move on from it. And such a big thing. Generally, the one who has suffered is being advised to forgive and forget. And here, the one who has suffered is advising others to forgive and forget. So when he had furnished them with their supplies, he put the gold measuring bowl into the bag of his brother. Then an announcer called out, "O caravan, indeed you are thieves." Yusuf a.s. put that bowl in the bag of his brother to give that as a gift to him. It was Yusuf a.s. personal belonging, the measuring bowl. So he wanted to surprise his brother now so that when he goes home, he will find this cup. And what happened? Around the same time, the king lost his cup. So an announcement was made that, "O caravan, indeed you are thieves." You see, Yaqub a.s. was worried that if anything happens, people will suspect my sons. And that's exactly what happened here. Something was lost and immediately they suspected who? These brothers. And generally it happens that Muslims are the first suspects, right? So this happened even at the time of Yusuf a.s. They said while approaching them, "What is it that you are missing?" They said, "We are missing the measure of the king, the cup of the king. That is lost. And for he who produces it is the reward of a camel's load. And I am responsible for it." They said, "By Allah, you certainly know that we did not come to cause corruption in the land, and we have not been thieves." They said, "You know our record. We don't do such things. We're not thieves. We came to buy food. We gave you the price. We have been honest in dealing with you. And you know that we did not come here for fasad. You know that last time also we came, we bought food, we left. And this time also we came to buy food. We're not here to cause fasad." The accuser said, "Then what would be its recompense if you should be liars?" They said, "Its recompense is that he in whose bag it is found, he himself will be its recompense. Thus do we recompense the wrongdoers." Meaning, according to our law, the person who's committed theft, then his punishment is that he will be kept as a slave for 1 year. By who? By the one whose property he stole. So what happened? So he began the search with their bags before the bag of his brother. Then he extracted it from the bag of his brother. Eventually, a cup came out of the bag of his brother. And this cup was a different cup. It was the cup of Yusuf a.s. And the people were searching for the cup of the king. But regardless, even though they did not find what they were looking for, they found something that shouldn't have been there. So, Binyamin was accused of theft. Allah says, كَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا لِيُوسُف. We made this plan for Yusuf. Yusuf a.s. did not know what was going on. Allah made this plan for Yusuf. He could not have taken his brother within the religion of the king, except that Allah willed. Because now, the brother of Yusuf a.s. would remain in Egypt. And the rest of the brothers would go. And his brother Binyamin would stay for 1 year. And if Yusuf a.s. wanted to keep Binyamin in Egypt with him, could he have? Could he have done that? No way. Because first of all, his brothers would find out. And secondly, the law of the land did not permit it. You can see that even from this time, how much bias they had against foreigners. So what do you think happened? After several years, when the Bani Israel, when Yusuf a.s.'s family, they migrated to Egypt, and then their children, they formed the tribe of Bani Israel. What happened when Fir'aun rose to power? He enslaved them. So you can see this bias existed from such a long time. It was in the roots of that culture, of that society. We raise in degrees whom we will, but over every possessor of knowledge is one who is more knowing. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. It's amazing. We're doing something and we think we're so clever, so smart. We're doing it in the best way possible. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He changes our plan completely. And what does that teach us? That Allah has more knowledge than us. He knows better than us. And you experience these things in little incidents. Recently I was at the grocery store and looking for the bread that we usually buy. Couldn't find it anywhere. And my son is going back and forth. He's getting frustrated. I can't find it. I'm like, okay, fine. Let me just get a different one. So we picked up a different one and we realized that one was much nicer. Right? It was much nicer. You think that the one loaf of bread that you always buy, it is the best for you. And if you don't have it, you're upset. What happens? Allah shows to you that no, you don't know everything. You don't know everything. You don't even know what is good for your health. So trust Allah's plans. Trust His decisions. And realize no matter what you know, Allah knows more and better. They said, if he steals, then a brother of his has stolen before. Now see how they're so concerned about their image? They want to show that, this is our half-brother and we don't really have much to do with him. So he has committed theft, and you know what? His full brother, he committed theft before also. But Yusuf kept it within himself and did not reveal it to them. He said, you are worse in position, and Allah is most knowing of what you describe. You're accusing me of theft on my face when you know that I never committed theft? And they had no idea it was Yusuf a.s., right? So Allah knows of what you describe. Now, what do we see over here in the brothers of Yusuf a.s.? They are lying at this occasion. Now they are adults. They must be fathers right now, at this point in time. Because Yusuf a.s. was a prophet at this age. Right? And prophets are given prophethood at the age of 40. So Yusuf a.s. is over 40. And these brothers are definitely older than Yusuf a.s. So, you can imagine, these are men. And they're lying. Men, women, adults, older people also, they lie. Sometimes they lie. Why? When? When they have lied all their lives. This is why don't allow yourself to do something wrong even in youth, even when you are young. Because it starts with little things until it becomes such a bad habit that even when a person is getting gray hair, still he cannot get rid of those bad habits. Many times we say, she's a little girl, he's a little boy. They're only teenagers right now. He's only in his 20s right now. No, if they're showing bad character now, it'll be worse when they're older. If they had bad habits now, it'll be worse when they are older. And you see, repentance is like pulling out a plant. Alright? When a person commits a sin, it's like there's a small plant. The sooner you pull it out, the sooner you root it out, the easier it is. The longer you delay, what will happen to that plant? It will grow bigger and stronger until it will be such a big tree. And then it will be so difficult for a person to get rid of it. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. But don't allow yourself. Because if you allow yourself now, later, it'll get even more difficult. The Prophet ﷺ said, lying leads to sin, and sinning leads to hell. And a man keeps on telling lies until he is written before Allah as a liar. He is written before Allah as a liar. Because you see, it becomes a habit. It's a habit. They're lying when they took their brother away from their father. They lied when they returned to their father. They showed false blood. And now again they're lying after so many years. They said, "O Aziz, indeed he has a father who is an old man." Now they try another strategy. If that didn't work, right? Now they're trying another strategy. They said, "He has a father who is an old man. So take one of us in place of him. Indeed, we see you as a doer of good." Inna naraka minal muhsinin. This is amazing. If only they knew who he actually was, they would never say this to his face. That we see you as a muhsin. You see, jealousy, it blinds you. It blinds you from seeing the good in others. It doesn't allow you to appreciate good in others. If they knew this was Yusuf, their brother, they would never ever say to him that we see you as a muhsin. They just accused him of theft. But what happens? When they don't know who He is, then they say to Him, you are a muhsin. So seek refuge with Allah from this blinding heart disease. It causes blindness. It doesn't let you see reality as it is. إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. He said, I seek the refuge of Allah. To prevent that, we take except Him with whom we found our possession. Indeed, we would then be unjust. Meaning this would be unfair. If we take one of you in place of the criminal, that's unfair. مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. We seek Allah's protection from being unfair. So when they had despaired of Him, they knew that Yusuf a.s. was not going to accept their plea. They secluded themselves in private consultation. The eldest of them said, do you not know that your father has taken upon you an oath by Allah, and that before you failed in your duty to Yusuf? You see, sin is something, the guilt of which never departs until a person repents, until a person seeks forgiveness. They hurt their brother Yusuf. They hurt their father. And now after so many years, what are they remembering? Their past sins. Their past sins. So until and unless a person repents from his sin and begs Allah's forgiveness, that heaviness, that burden, that weight, it cannot go. It'll linger on with a person and it'll make his life difficult. So I will never leave this land until my father permits me or Allah decides for me, and He is the best of judges. Meaning I can't go and give more pain to my father. Return to your father and say, O our father, indeed your son has stolen, and we did not testify except to what we knew. You see, now they're changing. Now they're speaking the truth. Now they're defending Binyamin. They're saying that he has been accused of theft, but we didn't see it. وَمَا كُنَّا لِلْغَيْبِ حَافِظِينَ. They said, and we were not witnesses of the unseen. And ask the city in which we were, and the caravan in which we came, and indeed we are truthful. Meaning if you don't believe us, you can ask other people. Yaqub a.s. said, rather your souls have enticed you to something. So patience is most fitting. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Patience is most beautiful at this time. Why? Because what can you do? What can you do? What is the other option? What was the other option for Yaqub a.s.? Could he really trust them? He couldn't. Because the boy who cries wolf, you can't trust him anymore. So even though they were speaking the truth over here, Yaqub a.s. could not trust them. He said, بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. And it happens in life that when things are beyond your control, you can't force someone to change their thinking, the state of their heart. You can't force them to change their behavior. You can't do that. Nor is it that you can bring back the things that you have lost. So what is most fitting in that situation? فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Patience is most fitting. Impatience is not fitting. Why? Because impatience, what will that lead to? What will that lead to? Nothing. More and more loss. And patience on the other hand, at least it will preserve a lot of reward for you in the hereafter. And patience, it also keeps you hopeful. Because when you're being patient, like for example, if there's a competition and you're being patient for victory, right? So you're hopeful for success. Why is it that you manage to keep away from food and drink for so long? For about 18 hours. How? How does that happen? Because you're being patient, you tell yourself, it's only a couple of hours. Right? When you're getting hungry, when you're getting that headache, you tell yourself, it's okay, just 2 hours left, just 3 hours left. So, sabr, patience, it lets you remain hopeful. And this is what we see. عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَأْتِيَنِي بِهِمْ جَمِيعًا. Perhaps Allah will bring them to me all together. Indeed, it is He who is the knowing, the wise. What an amazing character. On the one hand, He says, your soul has made this easy for you. And on the other, He says, I will be patient. The Prophet ﷺ said that the help of Allah comes in proportion to the difficulty at hand. Meaning whatever difficulty you're facing, in proportion to that, Allah will also send help. Just like there were 7 cows, fat, and 7 thin. 7 ears of grain that were dry, and 7 that were green. This is how life is. Help comes in proportion to the difficulty, and sabr comes from Allah in proportion to the trial. Sabr also comes from Allah, proportionate to what? The trial that you're going through. But you have to try to be patient. And when you try to be patient, Allah will give you patience. The Prophet ﷺ said that patience and overlooking the faults of others is afdal iman. Afdalul imani as-sabr, patience and overlooking the faults of other people. Innahu huwal alimul hakim. Indeed, He is the knowing, the wise. Yaqub alayhi salam said, never will I send him with you until you give me a promise by Allah that you will bring him back to me.